Hello and welcome to our webinar, Expect the Unexpected, How to Challenge Your Comfort Zone and Stretch Your Skills. Thank you for joining us, so many people from all over. Please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat, your name and where you're tuning in from today. See some Virginia, Georgia, North Carolina, Colorado. That's wonderful. Welcome, everybody. I'm Christina Prendergast, Administrative Assistant with Office Dynamics International. And before today's program, I have a few logistics to review with you. Number one, the session is approximately 40 minutes, and following that, we will have a Q&A. Number two, please keep in mind that Jasmine may not be able to answer everyone's question as we have many attendees today, but she will certainly do her best. Number three, we do not have a handout for today's session. Number four, you will receive access to the recorded webinar, and that will be sent to you immediately after today's event. And number five, and finally, a certificate of attendance will be emailed to you approximately 24 hours after today's event. And now to introduce today's speaker, Jasmine Freeman, former Executive Assistant to Joan Burge, is Vice President of Office Dynamics International. She has been very involved in all aspects of the business, especially marketing and social media, making sure the company and its founder and CEO, Joan Burge, are known and connected to administrative professionals worldwide. She is a contributing author to 3 books, Life Choices, Putting the Pieces Together, Life Choices, It's Never Too Late, and the Amazon bestseller, Who Took My Pen Again? Jasmine is also a TEDx speaker. Check out her talk titled From Zero to Silly. Jasmine has had numerous opportunities to challenge her own comfort zone, and she's excited to speak with us today about how we can begin to stretch ourselves. Welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you, Christina, and wow, I'm just amazed. I'm like looking over here at the chat, and just the chat's just going crazy with people from all over the world. It looks like we've got Dayton, Ohio, and Richmond, Virginia, and Oregon, and Wisconsin, and New Jersey. So really, really wonderful to see all of you here. Thanks for taking the time to jump into this presentation this morning. Excited to have you here. Looks like Red Deer, Canada. So I'm just so excited, but this is definitely a true testament to us jumping outside of our comfort zone, because if you're familiar, I'm usually in Christina's position, presenting Joan to you and kind of helping her co-host the webinar in that capacity. This is the first time I've personally ever presented a webinar, and for Christina, this is the first time that she's jumped in this capacity and helped co-host in this way. So we're both stepping outside of our comfort zones, and I guess being true living examples of getting outside of your comfort zone while we do the webinar. So Christina is actually going to go into mute mode, and she's going to turn off her camera for a little while so that she can help manage the chat for anybody that's having any issues. If you're having audio or video or any of those issues with the webinar, Christina will be monitoring the chat and helping address those things throughout the webinar. Also joining her there will be Brian. He's going to be working on the sidelines there silently, helping anybody that's having any issues or questions. So watch for them if you're having that need. Also, because I'm doing the webinar, that obviously means that Joan is not able to be here to present to you today, although she wishes that she could be. And if you were at the September webinar, you know that Joan had a procedure in August, and she is recovering now, and she's recovering really well. So she just needs to take it easy for a little bit longer before she comes back. But she is planning to be back in the office and doing the next webinar, which will be on October 8th. And we will be sending an invitation out for that webinar shortly. So that'll be coming probably before the end of the week, actually. Okay, so let's see here. I'm just glancing over at the chat because that is what I'm used to doing, but I'm going to let Christina manage that, and we will get to the question and answer later today. I did see something about Toastmasters, though, and I just wanted to address it and say, actually, yes, several years ago, I did participate in a Toastmasters group for quite a while, and it was really a great experience and another way to get outside of your comfort zone. So that's our update on Joan. And as Christina mentioned earlier, we do not have a handout today. And I'm going to go ahead and begin with today's content portion of our webinar. For those of you that don't know me, or you don't really know a little more about my story, I met Joan in 2005 when I was at one of her training courses, and I was there as an attendee in her class. I was living in Iowa, working in Omaha, Nebraska, and I was in that class just as a participant, and really she changed my view of the administrative profession. When I went back to the office, I was really excited about being an assistant and all the things that I could do with the partnership with my executive, and started to make those things happen. A year later, I came back for part 2. I was in a different position. I was working with a different executive. And Joan was in a different position at that time too. She had a new assistant, and things weren't working out so well, and she was looking for somebody new in that spot. Well, she made a comment to me in class just saying something like she wished she could find someone like me to work with in the area, and it was just proving to be really difficult. So when I went home, my husband and I talked about it, and that was a Friday afternoon. Monday morning, I had called Joan and said, I would like to apply for a position to work with you. And as they say, the rest is history. Here we are almost 9 years later working together. But that was definitely a huge risk for me, way outside of our comfort zone. Both my husband and I grew up in Iowa, and our families are all from Iowa. Nobody really ever moved away. So for the two of us to venture out, we had 3 young kids at the time. We had a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and I think my son was almost 10 years old at the time. So with the 3 kids, didn't know anybody in Las Vegas. Really the only person I knew was Joan, and I didn't really know her all that well. I'd just been to her classes. Didn't have a relationship with her outside of those classes. So here we are in Las Vegas, and we get to Las Vegas, and I'm working with Joan, and she is having, she had just come back from an emergency hysterectomy when I first started. My first few weeks, she was really not even in the office because of the medical procedure. And as she was recovering, I noticed that she was having a lot of anxiety, and it was just as a result of the procedure. She had some side effects, and she was not recovering as well as she thought she would be. So the role looked a lot different than I had originally anticipated it to. So that was outside of my comfort zone as well, because I wasn't quite sure what was going on with her. I wasn't sure how fast she would be able to get back into work. And here I'd moved my whole family out here, and he started to wonder, was this a mistake, or, what are we supposed to do? But I decided that I just needed to step up and, excuse me one moment, step up and just do the job, be brilliant at the basics. I knew how to do the basic assistant duties, and so that's what I really decided I needed to do. And then the rest would fall into place when Joan was better. And I also decided that I was here for a purpose, and even though I was outside of my comfort zone, there was a reason for it, and I needed to just step up and show up, do the work each day, and that would eventually reveal itself. So here we are. After that traumatic event, unfortunately, the traumas and the dramas didn't stop. We have had a very rocky road over the last 9 years. Joan had lost her husband to pancreatic cancer, and that was a 3.5-year battle, and he did work with us, and so there was a lot of times where Joan had to go and take care of him, and I had to step into different uncomfortable situations and roles because of that, but that's where I felt like I could really be used and helpful, so that's what I did. So yeah, it was real. Oh, here, did your husband have a new job in Las Vegas? My husband actually didn't have a job, and it took him quite a while to find a job, so that added to the stress and the discomfort of the move originally. So that was really tough. Thanks for asking that, Dolores. And then with the rest of the things that had happened over the years, there's always been something that kind of led to me being able to grow outside of my comfort zone, but it wasn't always, positive. It was sometimes an external force that kind of forced us out of our comfort zone. But in the end, we were able to look back and say, okay, well, at least we did grow from that experience. Other ways, though, because it hasn't been all trauma and drama, there have been some really great ways and some internal ways that I've challenged myself as well. Like being able to write blogs and articles and do interviews and even write books or participate in writing books with other authors. That was another way that I wasn't totally comfortable with my skill set in that area, but by being able to step out and do it, I had that opportunity to at least see what I was made of if I was able to do that. Presentations and event management. Every year the event's scaling to bigger sizes and bigger production. Recording my own introductory video, which is totally different than doing something live like this webinar. And even now live broadcasting. We just started on Periscope, and I've been doing Periscope, just doing Periscopes on that platform for Office Dynamics, and that's a live broadcasting tool, which is always really nerve-wracking before you hit start broadcast, but that's been another way that I've been able to expand outside of my comfort zone and grow my skill set. I'm actually going to be switching over to a slide presentation now. So just a heads up, you're not going to see my face for a little while, but you should still be able to hear my voice. And I will come back for the Q&A portion. So bear with me as I just maneuver the screen here over to our slides. Okay. All right. We just want to quickly thank our partners, Adesi, Brilliant, -5, and Dress Barn, and move into what is our comfort zone anyway. All right, so our comfort zone, you've probably seen this graphic out there. What is a comfort zone? Here's your comfort zone. Over here, this little area, and over here, totally not in your comfort zone, is where the magic happens. So assuming we've all heard this phrase and we've seen this graphic out there, I thought it was important to talk about what a comfort zone is, though, because everybody's comfort zone is different. My kids, for example, have a completely different comfort zone than I do, and you have a completely different comfort zone than I do. For example, my 4-year-old will not go upstairs by himself. He is afraid to go up the stairs, even though there's nothing up there that is scary, but for him, that he's afraid something will happen if he goes up the stairs alone. For those of you, if you're watching this webinar and thinking, yes, I would love to do a webinar, that's something that I would love to do. There are some of you out there that are like, no way, there's no way that I could ever do a webinar. So everybody is in a different space when it comes to their comfort zone. What may expand one comfort zone may paralyze another person, so to speak. There's an author, Judith Barwick, and she wrote this book quite a while ago. It's called Danger in the Comfort Zone. And she writes that a comfort zone is a behavioral space or a behavioral state where a person operates in anxiety neutral. Other people define it as a behavioral space where your routine and your pattern are at minimum stress and risk, or it's an optimal state or mental security state. So optimal anxiety, which is just outside of our comfort zone, can bring out our best, but too much of a good thing can be harmful. So we're going to talk about that today too. And the benefits of being in your comfort zone are that it is low stress and it is low anxiety, but it's also a false sense of security because there is no urgency and there's no opportunity for growth here. So we're going to talk about why bother getting outside of your comfort zone. Let's see here, there's our next slide. So while the comfort zone is a nice place to visit, you don't want to live there because comfort reduces our motivation for introducing important transformations in our lives. Being comfortable often prohibits us from chasing our dreams and pushing ourselves and trying new things. And there are definitely benefits to getting out there. If you get outside of your comfort zone, you are going to see benefits such as increased productivity. Lifehacker.com says that comfort kills productivity because without the sense of unease that comes from having deadlines and expectations, we tend to phone it in and do the minimum that's required to get by. And we lose the drive and ambition to do more things and learn new things. And we also fall into the trap where we feign busy as a way to stay in our comfort zones and avoid doing new things. If you could, comment in the chat, how many of you have used the busyness as an excuse to not do something, or to try something a new way, or to maybe go somewhere with your friends because it's outside of your comfort zone, but you used the excuse you were too busy? Another benefit is it increases your flexibility. If you're comfortable with change and challenges because you frequently challenge yourself, you're becoming more flexible. In fact, you are more apt to challenge yourself at work in other parts of your life. For example, let's look at the next slide on growing your comfort zone. It's by Future Science Leaders, and it's this infographic. This is just a small portion of their infographic. It shows that with each challenge, you go from this comfort zone in the center to your growth zone. And outside of that is a panic zone. Every time that you challenge yourself, see here in the center, this comfort zone is stretched a little bit more, and this growth zone is stretched in a different way. Every time you challenge yourself, you're actually increasing that comfort zone a little bit into that growth zone. You also increase your creative ability. Oh, I'm seeing some of the responses there. Some people, yes, they've used busy, and some people haven't. So wow, good for you if you haven't used busy as an excuse. That's great. Back to the creative ability. Even something as simple as changing your routine and going to lunch with people when you're used to maybe staying in the office. For example, I typically stay in the office for lunch, but on the days that I do get out and have lunch with some people, different group of people maybe that I don't see on a regular basis, I come back to the office renewed, energized, and more creative. I actually have ideas that I come back with. Say I'm working on conference and I come back with fresh ideas for conference because I kind of took a break away from that and tried something different, expanded my mindset, had different conversations over lunch. It's really interesting how that works. It's easier to brainstorm and to be creative. You seek new skills and experiences, and you open the door to new ideas that will inspire and educate. It's also a possible or positive uncomfortable experience can help us brainstorm because we see old problems in a new light and tackle challenges that we face with a new energy. Another benefit is that opportunity does present itself to you because you actually maximize your performance and your overall self-improvement when you continue to challenge your comfort zone. Pushing your personal boundaries can actually help you hit your stride sooner, and you get more done, and you find that you work in smarter ways because of that challenge. Awesome. I'm just checking out the comments because I know that habit, so that's really cool. Somebody commented on the infographic that we used, and I will share the link to the full infographic after today's presentation. So thanks, Avina, for mentioning that. Another benefit is you discover what you're capable of when you challenge yourself, and that might surprise you. Let's see here. So what can you do about it? Let's get into the action. If you want to do something, or if you want something you've never had, as the slide says, you'll have to do something you've never done. You have a choice to leave that place, to stretch and grow, just as this fish is hopping out of the water here. A comfort zone isn't necessarily a good or a bad thing. As we talked about, it's a natural state, and we do all need that place, but we can't dwell there for too long. You can start to make changes And you get to decide if it's going to be a little change or a big change in most of the cases, unless it's the external, like the forced that I talked about in the beginning when I was introducing myself. Perhaps in the external, in a forced scenario, those types of situations where someone maybe loses a job or something dramatic happens in their life. When you do step out and try to expand your comfort zone on a regular basis, you are preparing yourself for the unexpected, because you're starting to grow and build your own resilience through challenging your own comfort zone in these smaller ways on a regular basis. And did you know that our comfort zone actually can shrink or grow depending on how much we challenge it? As we age, our comfort zone is going to look completely different in 10 years and 20 years, and it could look smaller or it could look larger, depending on how you have shaped it over the years. So how do we push past cozy and willingly seek discomfort? Let's see here. This is the fun part, but I do want to mention that there is a difference between controlled anxiety and the everyday anxiety that many people do struggle with. We're talking about the controlled anxiety that we can manipulate. And if there is more serious anxiety, then I recommend truly working through that with professional help, because you don't want that fear and that high anxiety to control you. But there are some questions to ask yourself as you start to venture out of that comfort zone, because truly not all challenges are going to be right for you. It's important to ask yourself how to start making stepping out easier, especially if it's paralyzing to you. An example could be to start practicing with family and friends in that area. Another question is, what are some things that you should consider before you step out? How does this align with your values? So you do want to make those considerations first, because somebody may be challenging you in a way that doesn't align with your values, and you don't want to step out of your comfort zone just for the sake of trying to challenge yourself and step out of your comfort zone. So ask yourself those questions first. How does it align with my values? What are other things I need to consider before I do this? And if you aren't expanding outside of your own comfort zone or taking advantage of an opportunity, why not? What's preventing you from moving forward and saying yes to new assignments at work? An example is you might be shying away from speaking your ideas in meetings or calling in sick when there's social events for networking at work. So what kinds of things are you trying to stay away from, and why? Really dig into that. And what are some strategies that you can incorporate when stepping out of your comfort zone? So it'll look different every time, but some of the ways you could just be smart, do your research, ask questions and get the details. Another would be to really define success in that area. What would it look like if you stepped out? Prepare for the expected, but also prepare for the unexpected, and set some expectations up for yourself. Some things that you can start to do now would be to change things up. Allow yourself to be vulnerable, because that is one of the reasons why we hold back, because we aren't okay with that vulnerability being out there. Be courageous. Welcome frustration. Welcome setback, struggle, failure. All of those things are reasons why we don't step out of our comfort zone. But if you approach it with the welcome attitude that yes, this might happen and that's okay, you're going to be able to grow through it. Take time to think about a decision. Being methodical can actually be a challenge for you. Maybe you are somebody that makes snap decisions. So a challenge for you would be taking time to think. And conversely, maybe you are a more methodical person. So try making a snap decision. Be decisive. Being decisive might be a stretch. So try and make a quick decision for yourself and see how that challenges you, especially if you suffer from analysis paralysis. You can take small steps break the challenge down, so to speak, into smaller bites and take it one baby step at a time, especially if it's a big, big challenge. You can even find a friend. I love to do this. Find a friend who you can partner with. I actually have a mommy coffee group that I meet with every couple weeks, and we just go to coffee without the kids early in the morning on a Saturday, and we talk about the things that in life that we want for ourselves, where we're struggling, where we want to challenge ourselves. And then we commit to each other that we're going to stay in touch via text message throughout the week and check in and let each other know, okay, yes, I did work out this week, or I did try this with my kid, and I know that I've been saying that this was an area that was really scaring me. So have an accountability partner, somebody that you trust and that you know is going to be okay with holding you accountable. Say yes to something that scares you. I could always tell when an assignment was coming my way, or when Joan had something that she wanted me to take on here at the office, like speaking at our annual conference. And I knew that assignment was bigger than me and that I didn't feel completely prepared for it. But I also knew that because it scared me, I had to say yes. I had to challenge myself because I knew that it did align with my values. I knew that it did align with my goals for myself. Even though it was so scary, I had to step out and give it a try. And those can be some of your biggest wins. So definitely give yourself a chance to say yes to something that scares you. Be selective. Be selective and pick something that really matters to you. I like to examine my 5 pillars, and if you've been following Joan Burge and Office Dynamics for a while, you know what the 5 pillars are, but if you don't, I will share them with you. So your career, your family, your wellness, your spiritual, and your financial pillars. So each area of life, whether it's career or whether it's financial, I like to examine that area and say, where am I right now and where would I like to be, and what kinds of things do I need to do to get into that next area or next level. So with financial, say we want to be debt-free. I'm going to have to start living by a budget, and that's not going to be comfortable for me or my family for a while if that's not something that we have been doing. A pro tip would be, though, in this area, don't try and do everything all at once, and we'll get to that a little bit later on why not, but try and take just a few things on at a time. So let's see here. Other ideas, just quickly, I'm going to rattle off some ideas on how you can challenge yourself. Somebody mentioned it earlier, Toastmasters. You can join a committee at work. You can connect with other people that inspire you. Maybe you've been intimidated to talk to somebody, but you really look up to them. So connect with them. Volunteer, travel, have an adventure, plan out an adventure. Challenge your body. Ask your executive to have a daily huddle with you. Maybe if you don't have daily huddles with your executive, that's been an area that you've been afraid to approach. The challenge could be just to ask. Go somewhere alone if you never do that, or go somewhere with a friend if you're typically used to going alone. You can learn a new language. You can take classes or learn a new skill. You can try standing up for yourself. Perhaps that's an area that you need to challenge yourself in by having a crucial conversation. Or maybe it's just a boundary that you need to set with someone. And I like this from Christine Perkett. She wrote an article for Forbes.com, and she said, ask. That's one way that we can challenge ourselves. She says, I've taken this tip to ask in the last year, and I've pushed myself to ask people for things when I was sure they would say no. And 99% of the time, excuse me, they have said yes. So ask for what you want, communicate clearly, and believe in what you deserve. Share in the chat one way that you have challenged yourself at work. We would love to hear. And I know some of you have shared that, and the chat has been really active and wonderful. So if you haven't shared yet, what is one way that you've challenged yourself at work? And excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, so my throat's a little hoarse. But don't worry about other people. Focus on finding the greatness inside of you when you are working on challenging yourself. That's what it's all about. And also, you also need to know when it's time to stop pushing and it's time to enjoy the plateau for a bit. So, excuse me, while you can't live in your comfort zone, you also cannot live outside of your comfort zone all of the time. That's just not healthy for you. You have to go back to this plateau. So this graphic here, you see there's a plateau at the top of this mountain and another in between this valley, here's another plateau. You have to go back there and enjoy the view while you're there. You need to process your experiences. We need this plateau space so that we can have headspace where we're in that least anxiety, least stressed zone, so that we can bring back inspiration, creativity, productivity. We have to have a chance to process all of that. Actually, in 2013, I began taking on a lot of new leadership roles. There were several all at once, actually, and every single one of those roles came with a very big commitment for a long period of time. And in each commitment, I knew they were going to stretch me and grow me in new ways, and I said yes to each of them, but I also knew this was going to be really hard for me to keep up with for a 2-year span of time. So as I'm starting to wind down on my commitment for most of those leadership roles, I've started to make space and tell them I won't be serving in this leadership capacity in the coming year. I've also said I need to step down from leading the mission next year, just to kind of let myself enjoy the plateau, let myself enjoy to process the experiences that I've had for the last few years as a leader of a mission team. And then I was directing a PR team for a nonprofit locally. So I knew I needed to step back for a little while and let other people step up and lead. So while I'm able to step back, I'm able to make space, really assess what's going on next for me, and just give myself, my body a rest, my head a rest. You need that time to enjoy, you know. And what else can you do while you're in that plateau? You can celebrate the wins. In addition to processing the experiences, you can be mindful of what's coming next. And of course, rest up and prepare for that time by putting the right priorities first. For me, that'll be my wellness pillar, my career pillar, really focusing on those, and my family pillar. But another danger that we have to look out for, because too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, if you're always living outside of your comfort zone, you can start to get addicted to the new and exciting, but it can also become so common that you no longer appreciate it. So to fight this, you might try smaller challenges and changes for yourself from time to time to keep your interest. For example, even just going to a restaurant and ordering something different off the menu because you're used to always ordering the same thing, or taking a new path to work, or even if you're a runner and you're used to running on the road, maybe trying a different terrain. So try little things, but don't constantly give yourself those big challenges, because that can be a bad thing as well. Paying attention to your needs, staying in tune with yourself is something that we all need to do, so that we can recognize when it's time to push outside of that comfort zone and when it's time to rest and enjoy the plateau. We need this space at neutral anxiety to process the benefits derived from when we leave our comfort zone. And this time is just as important as the stretching and the growing that we do when we leave our comfort zone. So don't dismiss that. And I did mention there are some other dangers of stretching our comfort zone. And here, pushing too hard can cause a negative result for us. I had this experience when I was 19 years old. I was already a mom. I had a full-time job. I had a part-time college classes, And I had a part-time job where I was doing in-home parties at least 2 or 3 nights a week, sometimes more often. And I was on fire. I was doing all of these things, and I was priding myself on doing them all really well. And I enjoyed them. But I was constantly overwhelmed, and it was getting to be too much. But I didn't identify when it was getting to be too much. I just kept pushing. I just kept pushing myself and trying to do it all. And I wanted to make others happy. I wanted to prove to them that I could do it. But it all came crashing down. And that wasn't good. And I found myself looking a little bit like this guy. I ended up losing my job. I ended up letting the side business go because it was just too much to keep up with, and it was messy. I even stopped taking classes at some point, and I really felt like I lost. I felt like a failure. I doubted that I was ever going to be able to win at anything again. And I felt like because I'd lost at all these things, that was me. I was a failure, and that was just everything that I tried, I was going to fail at. And I went into this mindset and kind of retreated back and even was depressed. And I had to recuperate for a while, and it took me a lot longer to recuperate from this setback because I didn't identify when I needed to pull back, and I let myself just push into that panic zone that we looked at earlier. So it wasn't all a waste. Obviously, I did learn from the experience after that recovery time, but the heartache and the setback really took me a while to get back. It was probably years before I took classes again, and before I really felt like I could actually win at something again. So we need optimal anxiety for maximum performance, like I mentioned earlier. But this is what happens when we go beyond optimal anxiety. There was a study in 1908 by Robert Yerkes and John Dodson. So 1908, they did this study using mice, and they found that stimulation improved performance up to a certain level, which was known as optimal anxiety. But when that level was passed and we were under too much stress, or the mice were under too much stress, performance deteriorates because too much stress, and we're too stressed to be productive, and then performance drastically decreases in this instant, and we don't want that at all. So know when your body or your mind or your comfort zone is telling you, okay, this is a time that I need to stop. I'm pushing too hard. I'm doing too much. When? What's important now? Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate that comment. That is true. You need to know what is important now and identify it. That fits in perfectly. So growing your comfort zone takes action, but only you can grow your comfort zone for yourself, and only you can make that happen. I love this quote from We Bought a Zoo. All you need is 20 seconds of insane courage, and I promise you something great will come of it. That's what getting outside of your comfort zone looks like. You need that 20 seconds of insane courage. For us, it's hitting start broadcast, or just getting started. Because once you've got over that initial first step, the next steps come a little bit easier and a little bit easier. And excuse me, are you curious about where your comfort zone is now? I actually took an assessment this week because I found a tool while I was doing my research, and you can actually assess 3 different types of comfort zones with this tool. So I will share the link afterward, but it's whatismycomfortzone.com/survey, and you will answer about 3 pages of questions. It's really short. The 3 different comfort zones you assess are your professional comfort zone, your adrenaline comfort zone, and your lifestyle comfort zone. And all 3 of mine were very different. My adrenaline comfort zone was really pathetically low because even getting on a roller coaster causes me to shake and tremble for up to 10 minutes after I get off of the roller coaster. And my professional comfort zone was really, really high because I've actually been challenged a lot in that area over the last several years. So it was no surprise to me when that one came back my highest. So if you choose not to step out of your comfort zone, just know that you are surrendering. You're surrendering all the possibilities that exist for you outside of that comfort zone, and that limits you. It will not just limit you, but it robs the world of your greatness, what you can offer if you were to challenge yourself. And you heard the quote, there are great things waiting just outside your comfort zone, and it's true. So do something courageous. That life that you want to live is just on the other side of your fear, and it's up to you to step out and go after it. And there are a million other quotes about comfort zones that I can rattle off to you, but the point of it all is embrace new experiences. Don't constantly stress yourself, but try to push your own boundaries, even if it's in little ways. And if you're, like, say if you're not a phone person, try making a phone call instead of an email one day. Or if you struggle with writing, commit to writing more. Try something new. Go somewhere you've never gone. The only way you can get better at something is to do it. So make the leap, try something new. I'm urging you. And just seriously, staying in your comfort zone will make you stagnant, and life is way too short for complacency. And I think new adventures, they're going to keep us living and growing and enjoying life and really living it. So take time to reflect. Take time to reap the benefits of each challenge. Do more interesting and new things for yourself. And don't just limit yourself to big challenges. Try the small things too. They count. And we are going to transition back over to video here. So let's just see how this goes. Okay, here we go. And I just want to share with you, we're going to get started on the Q&A in just a moment, but I want to share an exclusive offer with everyone that is part of the webinar today. We typically do have an offer for you in our webinars as just a thank you for you taking the time being here and being a special member of Office Dynamics and interested in our webinars. So if you're looking to bust your comfort zone, we have this offer for all of our Chrissy Civic products. And Chrissy Civic is a career coach, and she was an administrative professional. And she has just a ton of really wonderful products that really help you get to your goals, whether your goal is to get better at interviewing or get better at resume writing, or goal setting and goal getting is actually one of her products that you see here on the side. Also building better professional relationships. So we have, if you follow that link, you will see there's, I think, about 20 products by Chrissy. Most of them are under $30. And we are offering 25% off if you use the code ZONE, and that's all capitals, ZONE. And that will be available to you until the end of September. So please, if you are interested in anything that Chrissy offers, go ahead and go check that out. Christina is going to come back here in just a moment, and we're going to get into the question and answer portion of the webinar. So let's see here. How about, and then I'm going to remove this offer, but if you're interested, we will be sending that again in about 24 hours with a link to the offer. Okay, Christina, hi.
Hi, Jasmine. Thanks for all that great information. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
So I'm going to broadcast a question here for you from Veronica. Is that coming up?
It is, yep.
Okay.
So how do you deal with colleagues who do not do well with change to new ideas without making them feel threatened? That's interesting, Veronica. I think we can't force anyone to get out of their comfort zone, but we can choose to have those courageous conversations with people and be gentle, depending on who that person is and how they deal with the change or with the challenge. Just knowing how to feel out that particular situation and having that conversation. So dealing with a coworker who doesn't do well with change or to new ideas. And there are a lot of people that don't feel comfortable with change. And that, I think that's part of what, why we need to grow our comfort zones. So I think by example as well, by being a good example of somebody who's embracing change and trying to make it work and having a positive attitude will also do wonders. While you may not be saying anything directly to them about it, you'll be leading by example. And if, Christina, if you could read the question off, that would be great too.
Absolutely. So this next one is from Heidi, and she asks, any other working moms struggle with wanting to do more at work, but are afraid that it might cut into family time?
Oh, yeah, Heidi. I've definitely struggled with that as well. And I know that there have been seasons for me. There's been seasons where I felt like I could contribute, and that the opportunity, actually, when I was working at the bank, there was a committee called Parents at Work. And they had events that were family oriented and that I knew I could bring my family to, or my son to, at the time. And that was a great fit for me. That was a great committee for me to be involved in, because at the time I needed something that was family friendly. And I think that you're going to go through different seasons at work as well, but there may be opportunities where you really want to get involved in something and it's going to take a little bit more time away. Maybe getting in touch with another single mom and just maybe doing a buddy system where she'll take your kids for you when you are putting in that extra time at work, and then you return the favor to her and do something similar when she needs to get out and get away from the kids for a little bit as well.
Okay, our next question is from Karen, and she asks, what is the difference between being in your comfort zone and being complacent?
I think identifying that you're hanging in your comfort zone, but you're not going to stay there. When you decide to stay there, or that you don't need to grow or get out of your comfort zone ever, you're stepping into complacency territory. I think your comfort zone is a place you don't want to live there, but you don't want to live outside of it either. But it's good to kind of go back and forth and to toggle at the appropriate times. But when you're not moving, you're being complacent.
Gotcha. Our next question is from Cheryl. She says, can you try to grow out of your comfort zone too fast?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that 100%. And I feel like I did experience that when I was 19, the story that I shared. I tried to do too many things all at once, too fast, and I hadn't grown a skill set for that yet. So yes.
Great. And then I've had a couple of different people asking if you could please repeat the pillars.
Oh, the pillars. There's 5 pillars. So we have career, family, financial, spiritual, and wellness. And family can be relationships. It doesn't have to just be like husband and your kids. It can be your family, your blood family, your friends, your pets. So that's how Jonah explains it. Family is really your relationship. Who is family to you?
Chelsea asks, everyone at my company seems all for new ideas. How do I keep up or compete?
Well, I think sometimes too, you can't force new ideas for yourself, Chelsea, but you can, I think, be adaptable. Sometimes you may be around a lot of people that move at just breakneck speed, and that's not your pace. And you just need to identify that and not try to compete with that, but be your own self and challenge yourself in the ways that you are comfortable with being able to challenge yourself. So I know there's another young professional, and she comes up with ideas like that. They're just rapid fire. She can meet somebody and instantly make connections in her brain on who they need to connect with. And I look at her and I think, there is no way I can compete with this. Like, I can't do that. I can't tell people like in 2 seconds exactly what who I think they should connect with. I need a little bit more time to process and get to know. And that's okay too, like understanding how you think and how your process works, and being accepting of that, and letting yourself have a little bit of slack there. You don't have to compete necessarily in that way.
Minnie asks, what if public speaking is out of your comfort zone, but you don't have any need to do presentations in your role?
Okay. You maybe don't have to do presentations but you may have to have daring conversations at some point. You may have to stand up for yourself at some point. Public speaking or a Toastmasters class, not only does it prepare you to be able to get in front of a group, but it prepares you for thinking on your feet. It prepares you for being able to have a conversation on the fly with someone that maybe you weren't expecting to have, and not have all those physical feelings that start to happen. For me, it would be like I would feel like I'm turning beet red, and my hands would get clammy, and I would start to shake, and all of these things would physically start happening to me, whether I had to stand in front of an audience or I had to speak to a couple of executives in their office about a project. And it was an intimidation thing. And so when I was able to take Toastmasters, it wasn't just helping me with being able to speak in front of people in a presentation manner, but it was helping me just to have those conversations on the side. So I think it can, the speaking skills, if you want to enhance your speaking skills in any of those ways, then a class or a group like Toastmasters would be able to help you there.
Wonderful. I noticed a lot of people in chat also recommended that. We had a very supportive chat today.
Oh, good.
So the next question is from Kelly, and she asks, I'm running into an issue where I thought I was continually taking on new responsibilities and new projects. I find I need a way to manage my time more efficiently. Any suggestions?
For me, it was assessing all the things that I had taken on and really understanding if they needed to be there. And if they all did, then figuring out how I could have the capacity to really be able to function in every one of those areas. And I had to get some routines down. I had to get some processes in place to make myself more successful in each of those areas and understand what was going on. So I use a very old-fashioned task list in my daily planner, which is right behind me. It's this striped Kate Spade notebook right there in the corner. And every day I have my most important priorities that I need to handle. And I sometimes will put those on my phone, and my first page of my phone, it doesn't have any other apps on it except for my task list. And in that task list, if I don't have access to this little book, which is very rare, then I have those three most important things that I need to get done today. And if I have multiple groups that I'm working with, like say Vegas Young Professionals, Office Dynamics, and my mission team, then I would have those broken down into those three groups in the order of their priority to me, and then what were the most important things I needed to do in each of those areas. So you really have to start getting some processes and procedures in place that are going to set you up for success when you have a lot to do.
Great. The next question is from Amy, and she asks, how can I speak up for myself without seeming argumentative?
Yeah, and there's a fine line between being assertive and being aggressive or argumentative with someone. And so just knowing the facts, having the facts straight, using the I word instead of the you word when you're bringing up those facts, and letting them know this is how I have perceived or I felt about this comment, just depending on how it is, how the situation is. And I know, Christina, you and I just had a really great conversation on being able to be assertive and not argumentative. Christina actually has her master's degree from UNLV. She's completed a degree in women's studies, and
actually
she has
bachelor's, to be fair.
Bachelor's degree, yeah.
Thank you.
Her bachelor's degree, but still.
Yes. And it does definitely help with becoming more assertive, and I've learned a lot from you too, Jasmine, on that point, for sure. So speaking of change, here's our next question. This is the third president I've had in 4 years, each one different. How do you deal with these changes?
So you're starting to get really well versed on having a new person coming into the role and having to kind of train that executive. And if after the first couple of times you realize you're doing the same steps over and over again, maybe there's a process. You're able to create a process manual for onboarding a new president so that you can be really efficient and streamlined in bringing them on board, and you're not feeling really frazzled with the fact that, oh my gosh, I've got another person that is coming in and I have to onboard them and do all this stuff over again. Because when you've documented those processes, it becomes a little bit more like second nature, like, oh, we can just refer to this checklist. And I know there's a lot more than just a process. You have to get to know this person. You have to understand what are their likes and dislikes, what is their communication style, how do they like to work with their assistant. So there are a lot of things like on the soft skill side as well that you're going to have to do. But I think having those checklists and just understanding that it is a process and that it's a new experience for them as well, they're going to feel more at ease knowing that you were prepared for them and that you are there to make their job easier, and you're there to have a dynamic partnership with them. So when you show up with that attitude, I think that they're put a little bit more at ease and their guard comes down a little bit too.
Great. So I'm going to combine a couple of questions because I think they're all about the same basic topic, which is, what do you do if you feel like your skills are being underutilized or you're not given enough to do and you need more work to keep busy?
Definitely speak up if you can. Speak up and ask, or say, I'm noticing that I have a lot of margin in the day that I would like to work on a new project. Perhaps there's a project that your team's working on and you feel you can contribute. Come to them with the facts and let them know where you can help, where you feel you can help. If they're in agreement with that, you might just be able to pull out some more work in that way. Some of the ways when I started to get more comfortable at Office Dynamics and I felt like I had a little bit more free time, I knew that Joan was really busy with Monday Motivators, and I knew that it was something that she did every single week, and it always took away a certain amount of her time, but she hadn't had a chance to train me on it. So I approached her and said, I would like the chance to maybe try and start helping you publish the Monday Motivators. While she was still writing the Monday Motivators, I was able to get the content set up in the email format, get the list all ready to go, scrubbed everything. And I just paid attention to what she was doing and started to make notes. And then I brought those facts to her, like, here's what I'm observing. Would it be appropriate if I took over in this area and started doing that? I have a little bit of extra margin in my day. What do you think? Or is there another area that you would like me to use that time? And we were able to start growing my role in those little ways too. Another way is if your team doesn't have a project or the space for you, or the assignments for you, look outside of that. Is there a committee in the organization that you can give some of that time to, that you can volunteer for and ultimately help benefit the organization in a different way? So look around and see. And if there's not, maybe there's an opportunity to start an administrative group, a core group of administrative professionals, and start doing some training events together. But communicate with your executive and let them know what you're thinking of doing and how that might fit, because they may have more work for you, but they wouldn't know unless you told them that you need that.
That's a great point. It's so true. I have gotten this question from several people. Will the PowerPoint that you had at today's webinar be made available to our participants later on?
Sure, I can do that. I would love to put some notes with it so that you know what the points were, because I know I didn't have a handout, so it'll take me about 24 hours to put that together for you, but I would love to, and then that will be just kind of a partner, like, follow-up handout for you.
Okay, great. And then this question says, this is from Penny, isn't there a time when you can enjoy where you are, knowing that it won't always be that way?
Yes, absolutely. And that's that plateau. For me, the reason that I decided that after my 2-year commitment with chairing the Vegas Young Professionals, with leading a mission trip, even though it broke my heart to tell them I couldn't lead a mission trip this coming year, I knew that it wasn't just 1 week away. It was recruiting my team. It was educating my team on what the mission field looks like. It was fundraising with my team to make sure that everybody that wanted to go went and earned the money to go. So I knew that it wasn't just a 1 week commitment. It was more like several months of commitment of myself and my time and my energy. And my kids are all in this transitional phase right now. One of my kids is in preschool. It's his last year before he starts school. One of my kids is in his last year before he starts middle school. So he's in his last year of elementary. One of my kids is just starting middle school, and she is going through all of these transitions. There's going to be a lot of change in her life very soon. So I thought, I want to enjoy this season with my family and where everybody's at right now. And the only way that I'm able to do that is to say no to some other things so that I can say yes to my family. And even though I'm not busy at home, it's different. It's a different way. Like, I can enjoy the season where we're at home. It's a little weird. It's a little awkward for me to sit there and not have a million things to do, but I'm going to, you know, that's something outside of my comfort zone that I'm going to learn how to do now. So yes, Shelly, you can, and you need to be aware of your life and your seasons and what's going on, because my oldest is in college, and sometimes I did push too hard, and I did maybe work too hard in some respects to try and prove myself, and maybe missed some of those seasons, or could have spent more time enjoying them. And now I know it goes too fast, and I don't want that to continue to happen for me.
Wonderful. Well, I think we've reached our limit, Jasmine.
Our hour is up. But
Yay.
I do want to remind everybody that we have the offer from Chrissy Civic. We'll send that out. I do have a hashtag that I'm going to share with you. If you had a question that we didn't get to, I do Office Dynamics social media. Please connect with me there. So I'm going to screen share this really quick because, let's see, I have, it's this last part here. It's hashtag Bust the Zone. And if you tweet me at Office Dynamics, post on Instagram, Facebook, use this hashtag, Bust the Zone. Ask your question. I'll be out there. I'm there every day on behalf of Office Dynamics, and I will be happy to continue the conversation with you. Here is a page where you can see you can connect with us on Facebook. You can connect with us on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. We have a blog, and we are now on Periscope, and we are now on Instagram at Office Dynamics. So please continue the conversation. Use the hashtag BustTheZone. And just a reminder, everybody, Joan is really excited to be back next month. She will be here on October 8th. That will be the next webinar, Managing Your Executives Day. We have a new executive guide coming out, and she'll be sharing tips on partnering with your executives. So if you have some questions about that, or you want to get to another level of partnership with your executive, please plan on joining us. We'll send an invitation for that soon. Thank you again for everyone joining us. And Christina, thank you for stepping outside of your comfort zone and filling my shoes on the other side of the webinar today. I really appreciate it. So
My pleasure, Jasmine. Thank you.
thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.